Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Which is strange, seeing as this is entirely staged and I set the camera up myself. But now that I have broken the fourth wall, I would like to share with you one of my favourite books. And funnily enough, I have it right here with me. It's called Letters of Note, and the subtitle is Correspondence Deserving of a Wider Audience. That's you. Like many of you, I have been staying at home, and most of my interaction with the outside world has been via a screen like this one. And I've seen that many of us are anxious, a bit scared, confused, frustrated, but I've also seen a lot of compassion, kindness, and humour and generosity. And that's why I've started picking this book up again. So you've got letters here from Queen Elizabeth Eisenhower with a recipe for scones. You have a letter from John Steinbeck, the writer, to his son with words of wisdom on love. And you also have funny letters, like letters from fans of Elvis to the president, very angry that he's going to be drafted for US military service and they're going to cut off his sideburns. You also have one of the last distress calls sent by the Titanic before it sank, and of course Steve Martin's hilarious approach to fan mail. The real joy of this book is obviously you going away and looking through and finding your own personal favourites, but overall I'm recommending it because it's a great reminder that throughout history, whatever the circumstances, we have always turned to letters, to communication as a way to connect with one another. And that hasn't changed, even now. They may be Instagram messages instead of a letter written on a piece of paper, put in an envelope with a stamp, but letters don't necessarily have to look like that. And while I want you to go away and find your own favourites, on that note, I'm going to share with you a couple of mine. One of which is a letter that doesn't look like a letter, and it looks like this. So this is actually a coconut shell encased in plastic, and it was used as a paperweight in the Oval Office by JFK when he was president. The reason being, it represented something quite important to him. When he was in World War II, he was a commander of a torpedo ship which was rammed by a Japanese destroyer. And the ship was split in half, and JFK and his crew were stranded in the Solomon Islands, and while he was there, after a few days, he wrote a distress message on a coconut shell, which he entrusted to two islanders, who then got in a canoe and rowed 35 nautical miles to the nearest Allied base. Luckily, they managed to find JFK and his crew, and the rest is history. That's one of my favourites because I think it's got quite a cool story behind it. And the last one that I want to share with you is a letter that was actually never sent or read aloud, rather. It's called In the Event of Moon Disaster, and it was the speech that Nixon would have had to read if the Apollo 11 astronauts hadn't made it back. And luckily and thankfully, it never needed to be read, but the writing is utterly beautiful. And it's a great reminder of how we've always found comfort in words and beauty in words in times of tragedy. And I think that's a really important thing to remember right now as well. And one of the quotes that I particularly love from An Event of Moon Disaster is this: "In ancient days, men looked at stars and saw their heroes in the constellations. In modern times, we do much the same, but our heroes are epic men of flesh and blood." And thankfully it never had to be read, but I think we are turning to words for comfort now in a way that's quite moving. Whether we are sharing words of love on Instagram, whether it's live music gigs or comedy gigs, or we're telling each other how much we miss each other. From letters written on bark thousands of years ago to these messages online now, we endure, and our words will endure because we need to connect with one another. And that's why I particularly love this book. And those messages can be about how scared we are, They can be about how much we miss one another. They can be about the fact that we've not done any exercise, or we've been to the fridge 17 times today, or we still haven't put on any pants. Why do you think I'm recording this video from the waist up? But overall, this to me is my favourite book because it symbolises resilience, and I think that's quite beautiful. So go ahead, be inspired. Letters of Note is online at lettersofnote.com. You can also get the actual books hopefully at some point. There are 2 volumes, there are more coming out all the time, and maybe write a letter of your own.